Okay, shalom uvracha to all. Thank you so much for joining. I appreciate you taking the time, to those that are here in person, those that are here online. I don't know where to look, honestly. There's a couple of different points that I'm trying to reach. But regardless, it is so phenomenally incredible to be back with our shiurim after a brief hiatus. Baruch Hashem, we were zoche to move to the UK. And we are currently in Hendon in London, which is very much chutz la'aretz, but I was reminding myself as I walked down the street today that Eretz Yisrael is one day going to be mispashet on the whole world, as we know. Right? Eretz Yisrael will spread out and will unfold throughout the entirety of the creation. And so a little bit our chevra that are trying to connect to that spirit of the geul, of the redemption, a little bit even before the coming of the redemption, to be able to taste a little hint of Shabbos still when it's Friday, and begin to prepare ourselves for that unfolding revelation which is happening through us and around us all the time. So then we could even taste Eretz Yisrael here. Kadosh Baruch Hu's glory fills the world, fills the earth. Every single particle of physicality is bursting with the presence of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, and that's our task. Maybe specifically for those of us that are unfortunate enough to be in Chutz La'aretz, there's an opportunity there as well. And so that's the avodah that I've been trying to connect with. But b'chazei Hashem, we're transitioning from the Lost Princess Initiative over to Eilecha, as we've spoken about in previous events on Matzah Shabbos as well, the video of which is on YouTube. And b'siyata d'shmaya, the kalim that we currently have in order to be able to really do something special here locally, but even beyond, is something that I don't take lightly, something I'm very grateful for, and is something that Be'ezer Hashem will do its part and play its role in Be'ezer Hashem, the unfolding gilui of that which we spoke about before, Mala Eretz Dei L'Dasas Hashem Kamayim Liyam Achasim, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu's presence should be apparent to everybody, and that religion and spirituality and Yiddishkeit should be something that's bursting with dveikus, that's bursting with awareness, that's bursting with depth and with inner sensitivity. That's our ultimate goal, that's our mission, to be able to spread that consciousness. And b'siyata d'shmaya, we're taking the opportunity with both hands. And we appreciate still having the privilege, really mamash the privilege, to still be able to connect with Yidden all around the world. Our chevra here, I see mamash from everywhere, whether they're here locally, in person, whether they're online, on Zoom, on Facebook. It's tremendous. It's mamash tremendous. And this itself is part of this gilui of Am Yisrael really getting together, mamash getting together with open hearts and with minds that are on fire, with Vani Kirvas Elikim Litayv. And so b'siyata d'shmaya, we're starting tonight a brand new series. The series is called the Inner Dimension of Shabbos. And the idea of this series is that Be'ezer Hashem, we plan to take week by week and try to take fundamental selections from the tzaddikim, from the various Hasidic masters and their various works, to really get into the soul of this thing that's called Shabbos. All of us, Baruch Hashem, at least on this group, are privileged to know about Shabbos, are privileged to keep Shabbos to the best of our ability, to learn the halachas of Shabbos, and constantly growing in our experience of Shabbos. But sometimes the soul of the matter is lost on us. And we know if there's one cloud that we like to speak about all the time by our chevra, the more the person knows, the more the experience is going to impact. Right? And that's the Baal Tanya says, Moach shalit ala lev, that the Moach is in charge, so to speak, of the lev, of the heart. And so the heart is the emotion, the heart is the feeling, the heart is everything that HaKadosh Baruch Hu desires. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to the Gemara and Chazal, Rachmana liba boy, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu yearns for our heart. That's why He brought us into the world. He's not interested in robots. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to be on fire. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to really bring all of ourselves into that face-to-face, panim-b'panim connection with Him. But ultimately, moyach shalit ala lev, the way that we can go ahead and truly impact the heart and make sure that our hearts are really bursting with feeling and fire, it's all tali on how much we're able to ready ourselves to understand the depth of that which we are engaged in. And it's very pashut, it's very simple, right? If a person really doesn't know much other than how to do something, and they do it, it's one thing. But if a person prepares for a month, learning every single detail of the symbolism and the remez and that which is beyond the surface of just how to do it, when to do it, where to do it, what to do, but the why, with all of that, all of which that why encompasses, it's a completely different experience when a person is engaged with it with a much broader, deeper understanding. That's our goal with Shabbos Kodesh, to be able to come into Shabbos with a Havana, with a deep, deep understanding of what this thing is, Shabbos Kodesh. And to continue to learn the halachas, but now they're within a context of a deep, broad, and emotional understanding. And so, Be'ezer Hashem, as this series unfolds, the idea is going to be to go through every detail of Shabbos, starting with Friday night, making our way to Shabbos day with all the tefillas and all the different details of them. But first, I wanted to start just in the beginning, first with Klalius, just in general concepts of Shabbos, selections from the Sfarim HaKadoshim. So we begin tonight the first chelek and the first installment in this series with the Nesivos Shalom. Nesivos Shalom lays out a very, very foundational, beautiful piece. We don't have the source sheets posted for the chaver that are on Zoom. I apologize, but if you'll listen, hopefully we'll get through every word of this. It's a little bit lengthy, but we'll try with the time that we have. All b'siyata d'shmaya. We may go a little bit over time tonight. Feel no pressure to stay if you allotted this specific amount of time until the 15 of the next hour, which is what it's supposed to be, but we started late. And we're going to try to get through as much of this as we possibly can, all b'siyata d'shmaya, with the help of the Master of the World. Says the Heilige Nesivos Shalom, Schusay Yagein Aleinu. The tzaddik quotes from Rav Asher of Karlin, Rav Aaron HaGadol of Karlin, rather. It was the author of Ka'ech Seif, which is the piyut from which these words are taken. HaShabbos noyam haneshamos. He says Shabbos is the pleasant experience of souls. V'hashvi oinig haruchos. And the seventh day is the delight of the spirits. Ve'eden hanafashos. And it is the Eden, the paradise of nefashos, of the lower level of the soul, lehis adein b'havasecha v'yirasecha, that take delight and take pleasure to enjoy HaKadosh Baruch Hu, your love, v'yirasecha, and your awe. Shabbos kodesh nafshi choilas avasecha. Shabbos kodesh nafshi choilas. The Jew's soul is choilas, is lovesick. Avasecha. After Shabbos, Shabbos kodesh nafshis Yisrael b'tzel kanafecha yechsayon. In Shabbos, the souls of the Jewish nation take refuge under the wings of Shabbos. Shabbos protects. Shabbos is our refuge. Yirvion mideshen beisecha. And we are saturated with the delights of the treasure house called Shabbos. What an incredible 3 lines, even 1 sentence. Mamish, such a deep, deep expression of our love for Shabbos and of what Shabbos holds for us, the promise Shabbos holds. Says the Slana Rebbe, "Bituyim elu matzam asher hakadosh." With these expressions, the holy poet Rabbi Aaron HaGadol, Schus Yagen Aleinu, the Heiliger of Aaron HaGadol, a Talmud of the Magen Mezrich of Karlin, begins lahavik sas mimahusa umitziusa shel Shabbos kodesh. Starts a little bit to express the essence and the nature of this thing that we call Shabbos. That after everything that's been said about Shabbos in Chazal, and even before that in Psukim, in the Torah, in Nach, Ubezorah HaKadosh, Ubesfarim HaKadoshim, and all the various commentaries, Benigla, in the revealed aspect of Torah, Uvenisra, and in the hidden aspect of Torah, Adayin, Atufa, Hi, Mistorin. Shabbos is completely hidden. I'm reminded of an expression from the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh. The Baal Shem Tov gave an explanation on the words Torahs Hashem Tamima, which literally means that the Torah of Hashem is wholesome, it's tamim, it's complete, it's not missing anything. Says the Baal Shem Tov, with all of our efforts to make a dent in Torah, in the sense of our understanding, in the sense of our comprehension, in the sense of our learning of the Torah, says the Baal Shem Tov, the Torah is so vast that he says this, the words of the Baal Shem, Adayin hi tamima. Torah is Hashem, Adayin hi tamima. We haven't even scratched the surface. With all of what tens of thousands, maybe more, probably more, hundreds of thousands of Svarim. You know how many Svarim are being printed every week in Eretz Yisrael? In Bnei Brak, it's crazy what's going on. Thousands of years of this. Adayin hitmima, we haven't touched the Torah. It's still tamim, it's still complete. So that's what he says about Shabbos. After everything that's been written about Shabbos, Adayin atufahi mistarin. It's still enwrapped with mystery. HaKadosh Baruch Hu famously tells Moshe Rabbeinu, I have a special treasure in my treasure house, in my hidden house of treasure, but Beis Genazai, in the hidden treasure house, and its name is Shabbos. Says the Slonimer, Dahainu, we find Shem Yuchedes Mitzvah Shabbos Mikol HaMitzvahs Shehi Bebeis Ginzei HaMelech. There's something special about Shabbos in the sense that it's not stam, comes from the house of the king. It's dafka in the Beis Ginzei HaMelech. It's in that hidden place. Meaning to say, it's essentially hidden. That no matter how much we talk about Shabbos and explain it and understand it and begin to grasp it, the Sfas Emes has literally pieces, like just endless Torah, all the Svarim HaKadoshim. The Pri Tzadik or Reb Tzadik has on Shabbos tens and tens of Mamarim. But it is not just that it came from the Beis Genazai. It is still in the Beis Genazai. That's the place of Shabbos. It's hidden. Dainu Shem Yuchedes. It's a special mitzvah. Shem Yuchedes mitzvah Shabbos mikol mitzvah shehi bebeis Ginzei HaMelech v'yadzarim le'sheletes ba. And no stranger has been able to grasp it. Because Shabbos is one mitzvah that exists and abides in a level that's beyond any inyan of a limit, that's beyond any inyan of comprehensibility, of our ability to grasp it. Because the Zohar HaKadosh says that Shabbos is the day of the soul, and it's not the day of the body. Which is very deep. Because that means to say that no matter how much I could possibly tell you about neshama, and no matter how much possibly we can sit and learn in all the Svarim HaKadoshim about this thing called the neshama, and its 5 chalakim, and what they're connected with, and machshava dibur ma'aseh being connected to neshama, ruach, and nefesh, and so on and so forth, we don't have the kalim to fully grasp this thing called the soul, because it comes from a realm that's beyond the realm which is graspable by our senses and by our comprehension. So he says that's what it means, that Shabbos is Yomid and Neshmas of Allah, Yomid Gufa, that no matter how much we talk about Shabbos, its place is in the realm of the Beis Genazai. It's essentially hidden. And no matter how much we speak about Shabbos, like he says, this beautiful lashon, Adayin atufahim mistarin. It's still atuf, it's still wrapped in its package, and nobody's been able to really see what Shabbos is. We can try to grasp it through all of its different facets, from all the different angles that we can walk around it and around it. But the ikar inyan, the nekuda pnimis, is an neshama that's concealed. It is the pinnacle of the pleasantness of the soul, and the pinnacle of the pleasure of the spirit, and the paradise of the nefesh, to delight in the love and awe of HaKadosh Baruch, and the revelation of God that we're going to discuss, b'siyata d'shmaya. So he says, the yeshlis amek, it behooves us to really think very deeply. Ma'u ha'makor v'shorish ha'dagesh ha'mufla shel noya mesikas ha'reivus va'avat klois ha'nefesh l'Shabbos kodesh. Where does this come from? What is the source which causes us to respond to Shabbos so viscerally on a level of our personal love, to the point that we're lovesick, like he describes over here, nafshi choilas avasecha, and the delight that we take in Shabbos, and how sweet it is. What is it about Shabbos that's described in these terminologies that are so incredibly dramatic? You never find that a person wrote a piyut about this, the mitzvah of tefillin was such a thing. Nafshi choilas avasecha about tefillin, and tefillin is an amazingly deep mitzvah. But you don't find that it's described as the bride to Shabbos right? That Am Yisrael is Knesset Yisrael, he ben Zugech, we have a relationship with Shabbos. Ois, like we're going to learn, Bein Yuvei Ben Yisrael. What is it about Shabbos? What can we point our finger at to explain why Shabbos is in this unique category? The Isa B'Teres Avos he brings from the Heilige Karliner, from his grandfather, the Slonimer came from the Teres Avos B'Shem Rav HaKadosh. I think the Teres Avos is the Lechevitcher rather, but he's bringing it in the name of one of the Karliner Rebbes. Sheshama Kruz B'Shamayim. Listen to this, an amazing thing. This tzaddik heard an announcement, a cruise in the heavenly realms. Shegam zeh shaloyim in a mekayim es Torah. Even this person that learns Torah and fulfills the Torah, v'shoymer Shabbos bechol dikdukeha, and keeps Shabbos with every single detail of the law. Halavai, we should be able to say on us that we're able to do such a thing. Rabbi Nachman says in Likutei Moharan that it's not impossible for a person to keep Shabbos completely and entirely, because of that. There's so many things that are so incredibly detailed and nuanced, and it's kemat. I mean, we hope that we're keeping Shabbos properly. So he says, even a person that learns Torah, fulfills the Torah, keeps every detail of the Torah to the point that he keeps Shabbos with all of its diktukim. Im einay ma'oire levavai lahargish tainuk Shabbos. If he doesn't awake his heart so that he's looking forward to Shabbos, which is a great benchmark, by the way, for how deeply connected we are to something on an internal level. If we look forward to it, if we're mitzape l'roisa. Of course, we all believe the Mashiach's coming, and we sit Tisha B'Av on the floor, and we cry over the Beis HaMikdash. How do we know that we're really connected to the Beis HaMikdash? When it's a regular Tuesday in September, and walking down the street, and we're looking forward expectantly. It means that there's a longing. It means that there's a yearning there. So he says, if a person keeps Shabbos with every halacha, meaning to say, he's working Friday until the halachically allotted time. Okay, now it's time for Shabbos. He goes in and makes sure that everything is, but his heart is not aflame with this. It's a mitzvah in the sense of mitzvah meaning commandment, but it's missing the Aramaic root, which means sabsa, which means connection, relationship. That's what all the mitzvahs are. They're much more than a commandment. They're an opportunity for connection. Listen to this sharp lashon. Azai kishiyizkaliyis began Eden. Certainly we can't say about this person he's going to be locked out of paradise because he did everything right. They're going to let him into Gan Eden. Gam sham lo yiyeh ela kamay safsel. They're going to give him a bench in the back. V'lo yargish kol tainuk. He'll be in Gan Eden, but he won't feel a thing. Shocking. Won't feel a thing. This is a very, very radical statement. Person does everything right. Okay, you'll get Gan Eden. But the same way that we didn't feel anything down here, so up there also you didn't feel anything. Because what we're supposed to be feeling in the mitzvahs is itself the ruach of Gan Eden. Schar mitzvah, say all the tzaddikim, mitzvah. It's the mitzvah itself. Not that for the reward of one mitzvah they give you another mitzvah. That's of course true. Mitzvah gereris mitzvah. But the schar mitzvah is not that one day I'll get olam haba for this, but it's the mitzvah itself. It's the relationship. It's the engagement that I'm able to feel in doing something that's transcendent, in doing something that's eternal, in doing something that's essentially true and essentially holy and essentially real. The Mela, a person that's sensitive to that tainug, he gets up to Gan Eden. What do you think there will be there? That kind of tainug. But if a person does everything right, but he's not plugged into this kind of experience, so then we have to say that in Olam Haba also, he doesn't have the capacity to experience the delight. So they give him a bench in the back. It sounds like a very radical thing. He says this is merumaz already ba'arachaim HaKadosh, and the Heilige Arachaim, who says Shekasav, he writes like this, Ki min animna hechliti. He says it is absolutely impossible sheyasig adam alois la'olam elyon, that a person should be zoicha to raise himself, or to be raised and elevated and lifted up to the olam elyon, which in Kabbalah elyon is always a reference to the world of bina, which is olam haba. Elyon is a kinoi for bina. Bina is olam haba. So it's impossible that a person should be elevated, lifted up to that realm, the olam of elyon, of bina, zulas, the emsias hasagas anaf mimenu biyoseh ba'olam hazeh, without having experienced a branch, a taste, a glimmer of that experience of the olam elyon, of olam haba, while still in olam hazeh. And here, it's not stam that he talks about this in the context of all of the mitzvahs. He literally applies this to Shabbos. Va'olam shekulai Shabbos, the world that's kulai Shabbos, which is a reference to Olam Haba, because Shabbos is 1/60th of Olam Haba. So the world that we refer to as being kulai Shabbos, which is the world of Olam Haba, ein ba ela oineg v'simcha v'hanashama yisera machtzavasa me olam zeh, which is etched and inscribed and experienced and planted in this world. Then the seed takes root, and then it begins to flourish in the next world. But there's no such thing as being able to experience a pleasureless experience of the mitzvahs in this world, and then to be able to have hasaga of the tainug in Olam Haba. Because again, everything's a mirror. So technically you did the mitzvahs, good, so technically you'll be in Gan Eden. But that means that you can be locked out of that experience of the pleasure. And it's not, we don't mean this in the way of like, oh, he's going to be punished. We mean this in the sense of saying, what a chaval. What a chaval. Not that you lose out on what you could have gotten in the next world, but the way that you were intended to have experienced the Olam Haba in this world. What a chaval. You didn't rush through davening. I say Yidden, I mean myself, right? Doing mitzvahs, and we're not conscious, we make brachas. It's not, okay, you're going to get an oynesh, the midas hadin. It's just like, that itself is the oynesh. I once had a machshava, I may have said this before in Shirim. Chazal say that a person that speeds through Kriya Shema, so they heat up Gehenna for him, whatever this means. Hell is sort of made hotter. But if a person goes through Kriya Shema slowly and is medactic, like you said, V'shar Shavayda, which is now printed in all the Siddurim, basically, which has lines in between to show you how to stop, how to separate words. B'chal levavcha, not to just blend all the words together and just run through it. Mitztanin in loy Gehenna. So they cool Gehenna off for him. So al pi pshat, it means what it says, right? Meaning if a person is able to cool themselves down to the point that they're going through Kriya Shema slowly, so then they cool off the Gehenna in the next world. But I wanted to say maybe al pi pnimius, ba'omek, there's no greater Gehenna than speeding through a Kriya Shema. Meaning that itself is hell. That itself is hell. To come to shul and be so detached from it essentially that really if there was no societal expectation, or there was no guilt, or there was no whatever it is that gets people that hate davening into shul, you really wouldn't be there without any of that stuff. And so memela to be yotzes, you have to speed through Kriya Shema without thinking of any word. Is there any greater hell than that? Vis-a-vis the paradise that could and should be experienced. So I want to say, not that the one in the future they'll cool down Gehenna for you. I want to say that itself, slowing down during Kriya Shema, cools off the hell of speeding through Kriya Shema. Because that itself could be an experience of the opposite of Olam Haba. And so again, technically a person experienced the mitzvahs in this world, technically he'll experience the tainig in the next world. And this is the Ar Achaim HaKadosh, such a powerful line. He said, and again, he says it very, very strongly. Ki min hanimna hechleti. It is absolutely, there's no way. It is absolutely impossible. And again, I want to stress, it's not a punishment. It's a mitzias. It's a reality. Because that's what Olam Haba is. It's the conglomeration of all the pleasures and all the joys that you experience with your mitzvahs in this world get gathered together. And that's the Eidin HaNeshamas, or Eidin HaNefashos. And so, minanimna, he says, what do you want from us? It's not a matter of like, this is the system Hashem set up. It's not a punishment. It's just the reality that a person is going to experience Olam Haba in accordance with how much he experienced Olam Haba while still in Olam Hazeh. V'hu ma'ashetziva, and he continues, this is what Hashem commands Am Yisrael ba'amrei when he says, V'shamru b'nei Yisrael as HaShabbos, perish neshama, Hanikre Shabbos. The neshama is referred to as Shabbos. That's the place inside of us that's godly. It's the place inside of us that's still. It's the place inside of us that has nothing to do essentially with doing, which is a relationship with Olam Asiya, which is the world of doing, but it comes from the world of being, where things just are. That's the neshama. That's what Shabbos is. Shabbos, like we said, is Yoim and Neshama. So Shabbos and the neshama are bound together. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Am Yisrael, Shamru b'nei Yisrael as HaShabbos. Guard the soul of Yiddishkeit. Guard the inner experience of your relationship with religious behaviors and with the mitzvahs of the Torah. Ve'im lo yasigu Yisrael b'chinas neshama zu, ein behem yicholis lamed begeder elyon le'esanig nafshem beginzei elyon. If we are unable to connect ourselves to the Havana Amuka that can inspire our interest and our understanding and our Havana in Shabbos and in all the mitzvahs through our learning about it, so that we should yearn for it, so that we should care about it, so that it's not just about doing it, but it's something that we are, it's something that we long for, pine for, it's something that we enjoy more than anything else, it's something that we are fully present in. So he says, without that, then when we come up after 120 to the great Shabbos, right, which is the Yom Shekula Shabbos, it's going to be similarly lackluster. V'hadavar tzarich Talmud, so the Slonimer says, needs focus. Ma'u hadagesh v'inyan hamiyuchad b'Shabbos kodesh asher aleinu dafka lahargish asnei amay, that even though this is true maybe about the other mitzvahs, but about Shabbos we see that this is where the Aruch Chaim HaKadosh says it, this is where the Karliner says it, this is where Ka'echsot describes in such deep and beautiful terms about Shabbos. Where does this come from? That's Ois Aleph. Ois Beis, he says, V'Rambam Shili Hilcha Shabbos Kosav Zel Shoinoi. The Hilga Rambam writes, in the end of Shilcha Shabbos, he says an amazing thing. He says, "HaShabbos va'avodas koichavim u'mazalis al kol achas mishteim shkula keneged shar kol mitzvos haTorah." Chazal say that the person that keeps Shabbos is ki'ilu a person kept the whole Torah, and a person that's oived avodah zara, even if he's keeping all the other mitzvahs, it's considered as if the person transgresses all the lois aseh. There's Anoichi Hashem Elikecha, that's the root for all mitzvahs aseh. And there's Lo Yeh Lecha Li'Yimachir Al Panai, which is the root for all mitzvahs leisaseh. So the Rambam is learning that Anoichi Hashem Leikecha has a very deep connection with Shabbos. Shabbos is the aseh. If a person keeps Shabbos, a person kept the whole Torah. And if a person transgresses Avodah Zarah, so the person transgressed the whole entire Torah. V'Shabbos hiya oishe bein HaKadosh Baruch Hu u'beineinu la'olam. Says the Rambam, Shabbos is the ois, is the sign of the relationship between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Am Yisrael that is eternal. Lafikach, therefore, kala oiver al shara mitzvahs harei b'chlal r'shei Yisrael, a person that's consciously and willingly an oiver on the mitzvahs of the Torah, so that's included in a person that's considered a rasha. With whatever translation we're going to employ for the word rasha, the word wicked doesn't meet my particular fancy, but the Gemara in Avodah Zarah refers to olives that don't reach maturity as being rishei zaysin. They're not wicked olives. They're olives that just haven't yet reached their potential. And so that's what we refer to as rishei Yisrael, not like wicked Jews. It just means a yid that for one reason or another, unfortunately, is not maximizing his potential in this moment. Right? But that's Bechlal Rishei Yisrael. That's that category. Because these two things are arranged parallel one to the other. They're aligned. And so the doing of one is the transgression of the other, and the transgression of one is the transgression of the other as well. So a person that does not keep Shabbos, Hamachal Shabbos b'farhesya, that's considered ka'eved akum, and has the same dinim of magayayin and so on. V'shneim ka'akum l'chol divreim, and he goes on to explain. However, v'chol ha'shoymer Shabbos kilchasa, a person that mamish keeps Shabbos properly, u'mechabda u'ma'anga g'vikoichoi, and the person that honors Shabbos, and a person that takes delight in Shabbos in accordance with his or her ability. K'fam refurish b'kabbalah schara, it's already brought in the Navi, the schar. But in this world, yeser al schar hatzafan la'olam haba. In addition to the reward that person is promised, is assured in the world to come. Shenemar az tis'ana gal Hashem. That we're promised that us, then at that point in the future, tis'ana gal Hashem, we're going to be able to take delight in HaKadosh Baruch Hu because of that which we experienced the joy of Shabbos in this world. Adkan, these are the words of the Rambam. Says the Slonimer, Gam b'zeh yesh leis amek. This also requires focus. That Shabbos is so incredibly deep, and there's so much gravity that's assigned to this thing called Shabbos. Oiver al kol shar mitzvahs haTorah la yotze miklal Yisrael. A person could be over every single else of the 613 mitzvahs, 612 he doesn't keep. He's still considered part of Am Yisrael. But in a certain sense, the Mechal Shabbos, B'farhesia, on purpose, and so on, not speaking Chas v'Shalom about those that don't know better about Shabbos, or that aren't educated enough, maybe you could possibly say that every person that doesn't keep Shabbos, it must be on some level because they don't really understand what Shabbos is. But v'hu ka'akam l'chol davar. Halachically, this person is considered ka'akam. Harei Shabbos hi ha'koivas mihu Yehudi. In a certain sense, it is Shabbos that defines mihu Yehudi, who is a Jew. V'atzadikim pirshu b'nusach hatfila b'leil Shabbos kodesh u'v'irachtem mikol hayamim v'kidashtem mikol hazmanim. We say in the nusach of our tefillah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu blessed Shabbos mikol hayamim, more than all the days, v'kidashtem mikol hazmanim, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu sanctified Shabbos from all other times. Sheyesh itim kedoshim and akroim yamim. The tzadikim say that there are days that are holy, but they're called yamim. They're called holy days. Coming to Rosh Hashanah, it's the day of remembrance. The Yom HaKippurim, it's the day of atonement. The Yeshen Akram Zmanim. And then there are other Chagim that are called Zmanim, times. Gimel Regalim. The 3 Regalim, Sukkot, Pesach, Shavuos, Shem Chagim Uzmanim L'sas, and they're referred to by the word Zman. But Shabbos, Shabbos hi le'ela mikol hayamim v'azmanim. Shabbos is beyond any of those days and beyond any of those times, and that's why we say uveirachte mikol hayamim v'kidashte mikol hazmanim. Shabbos transcends all the days. Shabbos transcends all the times. V'hi tachlis ma'aseh shemayim va'aretz. It is the ultimate pinnacle of heaven and earth. Can you imagine if we approached Hilchos Shabbos through the lens of understanding all of this? And after weeks and weeks and weeks, Be'ez Hashem, which we'll be privileged to learn, and I'm sure all of us are already learning these limudim, but just again, to see it through the lens of all the different tzaddikim, it's a different Hilchos Shabbos. Understand Shabbos not stam. Not stam. It's so deep. It's so deep and it's so glorious, this world of Shabbos. There's nothing more essentially Jewish than this. Because we see that it is the kova'as of mihu Yehudi. It's the neshama of creation, and it aligns with our soul, the soul of the Jewish nation, as we're going to learn. V'hi tachlis ma'aseh shemayim va'aretz, tachlis kol inyanei avodas Hashem, the ultimate pinnacle and the ultimate purpose of all of our avodah. Hein elu sheim b'chinas ma'aseh shemayim, whether they fall into the category of that which is referred to as ma'aseh shemayim, the heavenly kind of avodah, hainu Torah v'tefillah v'avodas Hashem, which we talk about in the sense of our learning, of our davening, of our overtly religious engagements, but v'hein inyanei artziyim, which we call ma'aseh aretz, the human aspect of serving Hashem, sheyehudi aved b'emes Hashem yisbarach, which is eating and drinking and sleeping and being a husband and being a father, being a mother, and being a community member, being a friend, and so on and so forth, just being a person, which is called aretz. Says the Slonimer, Shabbos is tachlis ma'aseh shemayim va'aretz. Whether you want to talk about Avodas Hashem in the category of those overtly spiritual engagements, or you want to speak about Shabbos, about Yiddishkeit in the sense of aretz, in the sense of being a person, Shabbos is the tachlis of all of this. HaShabbos kodesh hi tachlis kulam. So he says, Mikala Amar, from everything that we've said, muchach, it's apparent, sheShabbos eina ka'achas ha-mitzvahs. Shabbos is not like all of the other mitzvahs of the Torah. Ela yesh ba mashma'os miuchedes mimina. Shabbos is in a category of its own. Kedugmas habituyim hamufla'im betfilah shachris, like these incredible expressions that we use in the tefillah of shachris of Shabbos. L'kel asher shavas mikol ha'maisim, to the God that rested from all creation, b'yom hashvi'i nis'ale v'yashav al kisei kvoidei. On the 7th day, HaKadosh Baruch Hu nis'ale, rises up, whatever this means, and sits on the throne of glory, kisei kvoidei. Tiferes ataliyayim hamnucha, HaKadosh Baruch Hu in clothed Shabbos and a mantle of tiferes, of beauty, of glory. Oine karaliyayim haShabbos. Shimcha Hashem Elokeinu Yiskadash. We don't find such terminologies about other mitzvahs. Shabbos is in a category of its own. So we see the incredible nature of the terminology and the expressions that Chazal are using about this thing called Shabbos. Like we said, there's a relationship between Shabbos and Avodah Zarah. Shabbos being the essence of all the mitzvahs aseh, Avodah Zarah being the pinnacle of all the mitzvahs leis aseh. Say Chazal, if a person keeps Shabbos Kilchasa properly, even if he was Oived Avodah Zarah, he had transgressed on the other parallel Avodah, so Avodah Zarah, on the level of the Lois says, Kedar Enosh, like the whole generation of Enosh, he's forgiven. You don't find the same thing when it comes to any other mitzvah in the whole Torah. Nowhere do Chazal say that if a person wears tzitzis kilchasai, even if he served all the idols in the world, he's forgiven. You don't find that by any other mitzvah, only Shabbos. Aside from the fact that we don't generally find that a mitzvah can have the impact of sort of washing away an aveira, it's two different cheshbonos. In the same way that the Ramak says in terms of Devarim, Baruch Hashem, that we don't find that doing a certain amount of aveiros takes away a mitzvah. Every last mitzvah that every Jew does, he's going to get schar for, no matter how many of it. There are two different categories completely. So over here you see an interesting thing, that doing this mitzvah completely can actually go ahead and erase this tremendously foundational and intense aveira of Avodah Zarah. And Chazal say, like we had learned, Matana toiva yesh li bebeis genaza v'shabbos shema leich v'hidian. Hashem says, I have this special treasure, the special present in my hidden treasure house, in the storage house of the king. Go and tell them about Shabbos. Sheyesh b'hagdara miyuchedes, you find that Shabbos has its own hagdara, its own definition. Shel matana toiva, it alone is referred to as a matana, as a good gift. You don't find the same thing by all the other mitzvahs that they're referred to as a matana tova, and he says, aren't all the other mitzvahs also together, right? Why is Shabbos singled out as the matana tova? All mitzvahs are in that category of goodly gifts that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us. So now, after all of these questions, and after noting all of the interesting things that Chazal had to say about Shabbos that we don't find by other mitzvahs, now he finally launches an Eis Gimel into a little bit of the Havana. And he begins with the following. Ulavara inyan, and to explain this matter, Nakdemai Maran, or Moshe Mikabrin's Chosia Ganaleinu. We need to talk about this incredible interpretation of the Kabriner, or Moshe Kabriner, the Perish HaKosov, when he comes to explain the verse Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oisi la'olam. Chazal say that Shabbos is an ois, is a sign. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael, between Hashem, who's speaking, Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael, and the Jewish nation. La'olam, eternally. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world in 6 days. That's the pasuk. Says the Heilige Kabriner. Do you know where all of the incredible oceans all the different kinds of praise that Chazal had to say about Shabbos, the unique categorization of Shabbos from all the other mitzvahs, you know where that ocean flowed from, where the fountain is? This word, ois. That Shabbos is an ois, is a sign between us and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ha-Shabbos hi ois ha-mekasher umedabek as Am Yisrael HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It is the interface which allows for the intimacy between each Jewish soul as part of the collective Jewish soul and their source in Kudsha B'richa and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'al derech mamarim zal, like Chazal say, Bereshis Rabbah, Knesset Yisrael yeh ben zugech, that we are the marital counterpart to Shabbos, so to speak. We are the spouse of Shabbos. And we know that we're married to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shabbos highlights this aspect in which Am Yisrael are a ben zug. And then he says, listen to the way he reads the pasuk. It's unbelievable. Again, how do you read the pasuk on a simple level? You read it that Shabbos is a sign between myself, meaning HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and Am Yisrael la'olam for eternity. Why? Because Sheish Yom, because Hashem created the world in 6 days and He rested on the seventh. That's how you understand it on a simple level. Listen to the way he reads it. He says the essence of Shabbos is a sign of the intimate relationship between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Am Yisrael. Then the pasuk continues, La'olam ki sheishes yamim asa Hashem es hashmayim v'sa'aretz, which means, Hainu sha'amnam avur ha'olam kulai, when it comes to the nations of the world, that they come to ask you, okay, what is Shabbos? So they have no hasaga in the oisi beini uvei b'nei Yisrael. So when it comes to the rest of the world, you want to explain Shabbos to them, you can knock them off. Just say, okay, because God created the world in 6 days, He rests on the seventh, so we rest. That's only la'olam. That's only an explanation of Shabbos that's applicable to the nations of the world. But the truth of what Shabbos is has nothing to do with Hashem creating the world in 6 days and resting on the seventh. It's a nice explanation for the rest of the world. But the pasuk is telling us, Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael, when it comes to your understanding of Shabbos, the understanding that you and I, meaning Hashem and Am Yisrael, uniquely share, oisi. Oisi. That's what Shabbos is between us. Now, la'olam, for the rest of the world, you can tell them, Kishay Shisyamim, because Hashem created the world in 6 days and rested on the seventh. If you want to explain where Shabbos comes from and why we rest on this on Sabbath, and he brings it from the Kabrina, but it's really an Ar Chaim HaKadosh, which he notes here. So you see that the Ar Chaim reads the pasuk this way as well. It's kedai to see inside, because it seems to be a misreading of the pasuk. It's an amazing interpretation. V'shoirish harayonhu, and the essence of this thought is as follows. The Heilige Ramban says in Parshas Pinchas an amazing thing. Ein b'musvei Shabbos chatos kederech kol musafim. You do not find that in the musaf of Shabbos the chatos is included. The musaf of Shabbos doesn't have a chatos, which is unlike kederech kol musafim. Usually, all the other musaf offerings have a chatos. Not on Shabbos. Says the Ramban, Mibnei sheknesis Yisrael bas zugay v'hakol shalom. Because on Shabbos, the aspect in which Am Yisrael is the spouse, is the lover of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is revealed, and in that place, hakol shalom. In that place, there's no makom for a chatas. Pirish. Shahashabbos hibechinas. Shabbos is the aspect of the pasuk in Mishlei which says, Al kol psha'im techase ava. That when that place of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's unconditional, overwhelming love is revealed, and it flows forth from beyond all masks of whatever midas hadin and whatever rules and whatever plans HaKadosh Baruch Hu has, when that place comes forth, ki aza kamaves ava kasha kasha ol kina, that place of anila doidi v'doidi li, this month of El, when that's revealed, al kol pshayim techase ava. That love is able to just cover over and conceal all the wrongdoings. Because when you love a person so deeply, you're sometimes unable to see their flaws. Which is a phenomenal thing. Baruch Hashem, it's true in dating. They call it infatuation, I think. But without that nature, very, very few people would get married, right? Because it's only later on when things sort of settle that, okay, now you can start to see. But hopefully there's a place where even that doesn't touch. Hopefully there's a place inside of you where that love is so essential to parents, or parents to children, or husbands and wives to husbands, parents to children, where al kol pshayim techase ava. If somebody comes, chas v'shalom, and comes to tell a parent, your kid is this and your kid is that, it doesn't register. It doesn't register. Because there's a place inside where it doesn't touch. Shabbos is that place. Shabbos is the revelation of that place. In the context of the relationship between Am Yisrael and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, says the Ramban, no chatas on Shabbos. Listen to these words, hakol shalom, because It's all good, right? It's all good. On Shabbos, hakol shalom. Ki beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oisi. Shabbos is the symbol. Shabbos is the indicator light as to that place where HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Am Yisrael have a bond that nothing else can touch. Al kol psha'im techasa ava. Umemela hakol shalom ve'ein tzarich bekarban chatas lechaper. There's no need for a karban chatas because we did something wrong and we have to get forgiveness. Doesn't touch that place. Ki kol itzumay shel Shabbos kodesh hu bechinas ava udvekas bein Am Yisrael v'kudsha b'richa. That's the essence of what Shabbos is. That's the ice of Shabbos. The sun sets on Friday, and we walk to shul, or we pull out a siddur if we're on our couch at home for the ladies, or whatever it is. In that moment, what's being revealed? What energy? The energy of al kol psha'im techasa ava. The energy where even a person that's oived of a desire kedar enosh moichlem lai. Not because we had a court case and we decided that, something, your tshuva was sincere. There was no tshuva. There was no tshuva. There was just Shabbos. And there was a Jew buying into Shabbos. And do you know what you find when you buy into Shabbos? When you plug your socket into Shabbos, you get connected immediately to that place of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's infinite love. That place where nothing that you could have possibly done during the week can touch. You leave the week behind. You change your clothes. What's changing clothes? We're going to get into all of this. But begadim are indicative of the behaviors of a person, the actions of a person that aren't essential to the person themselves. That's why we can always change what we're wearing, because it's not really us. And that's true vis-a-vis the body. Now imagine the body vis-a-vis the soul. It's the same thing, it's just on a deeper level. We just gave a shir a couple of weeks ago on shinoi shame, why changing our name is connected to tshuva. It's the same Indian. The name is not the essence of the person. Even though it's pretty essential, but there's a place that's even beyond the name. And so tshuva means shinoi shame, means the realization that which I was engaged in, and that those things that I did, and those behaviors that I was behaving, that I was acting, didn't touch me. So we change our clothes in Shabbos, we leave the weekday behind, and we enter into this energy that's revealed in the darkness of Friday night. That's the greatest light. That's the light of the eternal Shabbos candles. Those two lights that Be'ez Hashem, we're going to learn a lot about Shabbos. There's so much to learn about. Mamish, this series could go for decades, 3-4 decades, and we won't have begun. Mamish. Those eternal Shabbos candles that are always there, that were always there as a sign of our unconditional love toward HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the concentration camps, in the Inquisition, through pogroms, and through all the different areas of what we've been through, we keep on showing up. Because Shabbos is the sign. I think they say, like a popular bitui, more than Klal Yisrael has kept Shabbos, Shabbos has kept Klal Yisrael. If we keep Shabbos, Shabbos keeps us. What do we mean Shabbos keeps us? Because Shabbos maintains that essential bond that we have with the Kodesh Baruch Hu. And we'll go a little bit further. Now to explain this matter in terms of its practical application, the kasher hoyrid aboyri is baruch as haneshama kadoisha shemitachas lekisya kavod chaytzav alagur ba'aretz ariva makam nachash saraf va'akrav umedar klipas va'taivus. When a Kodesh Baruch Hu takes this holy shining soul that's etched out from the foot of the kisya kavod of the throne of glory, and it brings it down and causes it and makes it to dwell in this barren desert of an earth, a place of snakes and scorpions and vipers, and there are klipas v'ataivas, and the realm of the klipas of the evil forces, of the external forces, the world of illusion, the world of externality, of appearances, v'ataivas, and our desire to engage in those appearances without ever grasping essence. Kishetafkid Yehuda ha'iloi, or ha'ilai, that its whole purpose is shetiyah ha'yirida tzarich aliyah, like the Balatanya says. That this descent down into the world should be for the purpose of an ultimate elevation on the part of the Jew, and the Jewish soul, and the Jewish nation, and on the part of the non-Jews, Ar Lagayim, and on the part of the created world. That, like the Ramchal explains in the first paragraph of Nesivos Shalom, every time that we engage in any aspect of physicality, we're lifting the whole world. That's its purpose. That's our purpose. And So how do we do it, right? It's very, very hard. It's very challenging because the world is so good at fooling us. HaKadosh Baruch Hu did such a good job. Hashem is really hiding very well. And it takes constant reminders, like Rav Nosson says, constant reminders to be able to keep us plugged in, like we mentioned in our Sichos Ran Shirin. So how does a Jew merit this? To stay focused in this world that's Mizoyim Lishmar al Yehuda, and to guard on this Yehud, to guard on this purpose, that this godly spark should never lose its contact point with the divine. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Tareg HaMitzvahs. So he says it was for this reason that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us 613 mitzvahs. As it's brought, really rooted in the Zohar Kadosh, that the 613 mitzvahs are not 613 things you need to do and not to do. 248 ways of keeping the commandments of God by doing certain things, and 365 by refraining from doing certain things. No. Says the Zohar Kadosh, they are called Taryag Atin, Taryag Eitzos. There are 613 pieces of advice. Now that doesn't mean that they're optional, but that's their purpose. They are pieces of advice that are helping us to learn how we can maintain that bond with the living God, with that Elokim Chayim. Not to lose touch, but on the contrary, to be able to reveal His presence within the lower realm. And to fulfill the ultimate purpose of all of Torah, which is Ubay Sidva, that we should connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, be medabek ourselves in the Shekhinah. And indeed, it's true that Shabbos is connected to all the mitzvahs of Torah, that of all the 613 pieces of advice that guide us to how to maintain that kesher, that connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Shabbos is the greatest of all of them, because Shabbos is keneged, the shakel is equal to all the mitzvahs. The reishis l'chol inyanei aru kedusha, and it's the primary essence of all of the inyanim of light and of holiness. Shehetz al habayri yizbarach ma'arin soif, as haShabbos shishma de'kudesh b'richo. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent Shabbos into the world, which is His name, which is His manifestation. That the whole essence and awesomeness of Shabbos, which is Kulei Ava, it's filled with love, and it's filled with the ability to connect to Hashem, to be conscious of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Dveikus. So if all the 613 mitzvahs are pieces of advice as to how to maintain our relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to become aware of Him throughout our day and to be constantly aware. And Shabbos is equivalent to all of the mitzvahs, then it must be that Shabbos is the primary method for maintaining that connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Yom HaShabbos medabek u'mechaber shuv as ha'adam Yisrael ala makar ha'ilai. Shabbos is the vehicle that takes us back to our source. Mikar machsavasei, the source from which we were hewn, which is the kisei hakavod. V'noisin koyach liyehudi la'amoid b'chol zu'am ha'olam hazeh shaloi yizamhu chas v'shalom. That enables a Jew to remain and to maintain that purity, not to become dragged so deeply down into the illusion that we see ourselves as part and parcel of it, but to stand above it. That's what Shabbos is. What a gift! Mom, it's not just a day off, a day to spend with family. That all this is true. That itself is godly. That itself is part of the divine revelation. Parents and children, husbands and wives, family members, friends, there's nothing more divine than that. But Shabbos itself gives us the ability to be constantly and consciously reminded every single week, at the end of the week and the beginning of the ensuing week, of our ultimate purpose, Tachlis Maaseh Shamayim Va'aretz, both the Maaseh Shamayim and the Maaseh Aretz, all of our lives, every facet of the human condition, why we were put here, is to face HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is to find that place within ourselves where nothing Hashem could do to us, Kiviyachol, could get in the way, and nothing that we could do to HaKadosh Baruch Hu could get in the way. The place where at the end of the day, at the end of it all, after all the partying and laughing and having fun with friends, and when we need somebody to cry to, we're running to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That place where b'mistarim tivcha nafshi, we maintain a kesher atzmi to the essence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's what Shabbos is. That's what Shabbos is. Oisi, Beini, Uvein, B'nai Yisrael. It's only Oilam that you have to knock them off and explain to them something that can make sense on their level. But Shabbos is an Ois. Al Kol Pshayim Techasa Ava. Shabbos keeps the relationship alive. V'zu ha'matana toiva she'ish la'Kadosh Baruch Hu b'beis kenazai. And this is the understanding that Shabbos is matana toiva. Why is it such a great gift? Why is it a greater gift than any other of the other mitzvahs? Hakavana lirmaz al zeh Shabbos hi or tamir v'nelam netzal me'arin soif. That the whole thing of Shabbos, the whole inyan of Shabbos, is that Shabbos is the revelation of the Beis Genazai. It reflects the hidden place, the place which al kol pshayim techasa ava, the place that goes beyond any other of the places where sin could reach, where mistakes could reach, where the world can get in the way between us and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Beis Genazai, that hidden place where HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Am Yisrael, Bein you uvein b'nei Yisrael oisi, bein kach ubein kach banayhem. Where we have that kesher with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's the hidden present of Shabbos. Meaning, the Shabbos is the present which reveals that hidden bond that we have that goes beyond any appearances. That's eternal, la'olam, no matter what. Hakavana lirmais al zeh, with this will end. Shabbos hi ar tamir v'nelam netzal me'arin soif. Hamachazir nishmas Yehudi l'makoira lias davik b'Hashem. Just one Shabbos, and we'll all be free. Mamash kipshutai. Just one Shabbos. If we open our heart to the depth of Shabbos, of course, learning the halachas, trying to be medactic, keeping Shabbos to the best of our ability, avada, that those are all vessels for the great light of Shabbos. But to go into it with this consciousness, to go into it with eyes wide open and a heart that's ready to receive the great opportunity of that aspect of our relationship with Hashem, which is revealed once more, which is activated once more as the sun sets again on Friday and we walk into this palace in time. Shabbos Kodesh. Just one Shabbos could mamish change a person's life. If we can experience it on this level, if our heart and mind are open to it on this level, if we're ready to experience it with every part and parcel of our being on this level, Shabbos returns the Jew to his default setting, which is facing HaKadosh Baruch Hu, like the Kruvim, panim el panim. Shezeh ikar mitzvah Shabbos. This is Shabbos. Shabbos is the day of the soul. It is not the day of the body. Or rather, ubeirachto mikol hayam v'kidashto mikol hazmanim, ki hitachlis yiuda shel adam ba'olamai lishmar al dvikusei b'Hashem. That means to say that why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu give us all the other yomim tovim with all of their mitzvahs is because we need constant reminders and constant days of portals of connection, sockets that we could plug ourselves into, get a little charge. But Shabbos is the tachlis of all of that. Shabbos is shakul, is equivalent to all of the 612 eitzos, pieces of advice as to how to get close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shabbos is the equivalent of all of that. Memela, Shabbos is the day of the soul, comes from Beis Genazai, comes from a hidden place. There's no chatas on Shabbos, Al Kol Pshayim Techasa Ava. If a person keeps Shabbos, moichallah, even if he was Eved of a Dezara, Shabbos is what's machriya to be a Jew, as we're going to learn Be'ezer Hashem. Why? Because Shabbos is oisi, bein yuvein b'nei Yisrael, oisi la'olam. It's the eternal bond that HaKadosh Baruch Hu shares with Am Yisrael. And therefore Shabbos is such an incredible day of delight. Because no matter who you are, no matter what you've done, and no matter what your week looks like, it makes no difference. You come into Shabbos, you enter into that embrace. You enter into an embrace. When we walk into shul for Kabbalah Shabbos, we're walking into a hug. That's what Shabbos is. And that's something that we should really plug into so deeply. Be'ezer Hashem, this is just the haskala of a haskala of a haskala, where Mom is just getting a little bit our feet wet to understand what we have to focus on every detail of Shabbos. Like we spoke about all the different ways of being mechabed Shabbos, and the 3 tefillas, and the shalosh seudas. There's so much to get into. Baruch Hashem, there's a lot to explore. I'm excited about this series. I'm excited at the prospect of being able to take this journey together through the inner dimension of Shabbos Kodesh. Hashem should bless us as we go now into Shabbos, Thursday night, as we go now into Shabbos, that we should be able to keep these ideas in mind, moyach shalit al alev, that the ideas that we've learned and absorbed should open up our heart, as we say at the end of Shemona Esrei, Psach libi b'seir hasecha. Doesn't say Psach libi el seir hasecha, open my heart to your Torah. It says, open my heart with your Torah. That the learning of this kind of Torah is what opens the heart. We should be zeicha to open hearts. We should be zeicha to feel this bond. Oisi beini uvein b'nei Yisrael, oisi la'olam al kol pshayim techasa ava, where a yid is a yid and a Kadosh Baruch Hu is a Kadosh Baruch Hu, and we are beloved to each other no matter what, no matter what. Ani l'doidi v'doidi li. We should be zeicha be'ezer Hashem. Thank you to everybody who's joining in person, to everybody who's joining online, whether you're on Zoom or whether you're going to be watching this on YouTube later. Baruch Hashem, we have a new ability to post things in very high quality, which we're very privileged and blessed with, and we're very grateful for. And to those on Facebook as well, we haven't forgotten about you. Ashreinu Chevra. Ashreinu that we're maintaining this connection. It's been a move, it's been a shift. LPI, Elecha, no matter whatever it is, it's the same Nakuda. It's Yidden that are trying to get closer to Hashem in a deep way, who are not interested in just being Jews, doing what we need to do, but really want to be Yidden with hearts aflame. And Be'ezer Hashem, Hashem should just continue to bless us together. So thank you so much for joining. Thank you for joining, and to everybody who's joining online or who will be listening to this. Thank you, Ashreinu Chevra. Thank you so much. I'm wishing everybody a lichtige Shabbos filled with the presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Thank you, Chevra. Great to see you again. Thank you. Kol Tov. Good Shabbos. Thank you.